Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, even to some of you. I would like to welcome you all in today's webinar, and I'm happy to inform that today we have more than 100 participants attending from different countries. We have, together with us, we have people from Thailand, from the Philippines, from Malaysia, attendees from Vietnam. We have people from India, from the USA, and from different parts of Europe, as well as in Africa, and from many other locations. And again, we'd like to thank you all and welcome to this webinar. We will begin in a very short while. We're just allowing uh, some of the attendees to come in first and settle down so that we are together, could learn a lot of this exciting topic that is brought to us by Alltech this afternoon. And we'll just give a little more time for the attendees to come in. More than 100 participants registered, and we'll wait for them for a little while before we officially start our webinar. So sit back and relax, get excited for this topic that we have in store for you today. Once again, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining in another EPLink webinar. My name is Alvin, and I will be your host for today. Before we get started of the topic, please allow me to talk a little bit about eFeedLink and our services. eFeedLink.com is one of the most visited feed and livestock industry websites. Our species-focused website has dedicated channels covering the latest market news, hot topics, technical information, industry interviews, event highlights, and as well as company updates in the feed and livestock industry. Livestock and Feed Business Magazine is the preferred magazine for key decision makers from the feed and livestock industry to stay abreast of the emerging market developments, industry happenings, and technologies. Please do subscribe to Livestock and Feed Business at efeedlink.com. And in case you cannot receive the print copy of this monthly magazine, we will be sending you a digital copy of the version of into your email. And finally, you can organize webinars in our eFeedLink Agri-Digital Hub platform, targeted specifically to the livestock and feed industry. Please do visit agrihub.efeedlink.com to view and also sign up for all our future webinars. Just a little housekeeping and to let you know how to submit questions. If you have questions during the presentation, please feel free, type them up into the question box in your Zoom control panel. We will bring them up during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. The success of Asian livestock production hinges on the quality of key grains, such as corn, wheat, and barley, that are imported from around the world. Producers know that these raw materials brought in from Europe, North America, Canada, and Latin America are vital to empowering the most effective nutritional strategies and protecting the health and performance of their livestock. Mycotoxins are invisible toxic chemical compounds produced by the molds and fungi that are present in plants. They can be introduced into animal production through feed ingredients and can impair performance by affecting animals' intestinal, organ, and immune systems, which can subsequently impact producers' profitability. Mycotoxin contamination varies by region, with different toxins posing challenges based on climate and crop conditions. Weather patterns influence mycotoxin prevalence, impacting grain quality, storage, and animal feed safety worldwide. And to truly understand the potential threat of mycotoxins for Asian livestock production, we must first uncover how prevalent these hidden compounds are across imported grains. And today, let us together learn on mycotoxin insights to empower your nutritional strategy. And to share knowledge and expertise of today's topic, eFeedLink has invited experts. And together, we have Dr. Ghazanfar Naseer, Regional Technical Manager, Ruminants and Mycotoxins Asia in Alltech, Dr. Radka Borutova, Global Technical Support Manager, Alltech Mycotoxin Management, and Gustavo Ribeiro, Regional Technical Manager for Monogastrics Asia in Alltech. And to present to us today's webinar, please help me welcome our speaker, Dr. Ghazanfar Naseer. Hello, Dr. Agad.
Hello, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, everyone. Uh, Let me just share my screen. I hope everyone can see my screen properly. If there is an issue, just put it in the chat. Again, welcome everyone, and thank you so much, Alvin, for organizing this webinar. I hope this information that we are going to share today is going to help our producers and our farmers, and the people involved in the whole supply chain. So today's topic, as Alvin mentioned, is mainly about the risk that our producers are facing with raw materials, especially when the raw materials are imported into Asia. Asia import a lot of raw materials from different parts of the world, and along with those raw materials, we are importing some risk that is associated with those raw materials, especially when we look at the mycotoxin profile of those raw materials. Now, this changes every season, every crop, because of the climate change or so many other factors. So we have to continuously monitor that. And that's why Alltech always brings this report, Asia Import Risk Analysis report, that gives some insight, some data, some information to our producers where they can look at that and make some informed decisions where they want to import from and how they want to manage the mycotoxins. If we look at generally Asian feed production, historically from 2012 until 2023, the data that we have shows that there's a significant increase in the feed production in Asia from 350 million metric tons to 475 million metric tons. That's a huge increase in the feed production. And that means we need more grains from different parts of the world. And as we get more grains, along with those grains, the mycotoxins come in. If you look at some of the data for the grain imports, and that is projected to grow continuously as well, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam continues to import different grains from different parts of the world. Especially if you look at Vietnam, Vietnam has a significant increase in the imports, and it's projected to continually grow. As the feed production is increasing, obviously the grain import is also increasing as well. If we look at some of the challenges that the feed and livestock producers are facing, one of the biggest challenges is obviously the resource scarcity and rising cost. As the ingredient prices are increasing, the producers are often either compromise on the quality or on the price of the raw materials that we're buying. Then supply chain disruptions, climate change, global conflict, trade restrictions, and now with the new trade, taxes coming in from the US, that's going to impact on different raw materials for different parts of the world. Alternative feed strategies, obviously when the prices increase, the supply and demand changes, the producers try to rely more on the byproducts like distilled grains or the food waste, which is locally available. That further increases the challenge in terms of the quality of the overall feed. Along with that, some regulatory and sustainability challenges. There is a strict feed safety regulations, enhanced, quality controls, adding cost to the complexity and overall, the sustainability, and non-GMO feed increases, which increase the sourcing costs and availability of different raw materials. So all of these challenges are there. We need to manage within all of these challenges, and that's why this Alltech import risk analysis becomes a crucial program for our producers to get us, understanding of how the raw materials are changing, what's the impact of different climate changes on the raw materials in terms of the quality, in terms of the mycotoxin profile, so that they can better make the decisions based on from where they want to import from, based on the current mycotoxin profile in those regions, or how they want to manage those mycotoxins. Remember, this is the mycotoxin profile in those countries when the new harvests came in. But keep in mind that there is an additional 2 or 3 months of the shipping time period, and then the storage on your own production facilities. So that can even increase the challenge that your animals are facing. For this analysis, this report, we use different sources for the data. One of the source for data would be Alltech 37 Plus, which is Alltech lab network, which utilizes LCMS-based testing, which more than 54 mycotoxins from individual raw materials. Along with that, we use an extensive network of Alltech rapid read system, which basically utilizes lateral flow rapid test kits, which can detect more than 6 mycotoxins from individual raw materials. And there's a significant number of raptors available globally, which we use to test the mycotoxins. Along with that, we have collaboration with SGS Lab in Europe, which utilizes ELISA testing for the corn in Europe, which detects more than 6 key mycotoxins in the corn in Europe. Utilizing all of these sources, we have collected the data, and we have developed this report for you. And some of the key insights, if you look at from the whole report, the different raw materials that we tested in Europe, there was a distinct difference in the mycotoxin profile from the south of the Europe and from the north of the Europe. Dawn in the north dominates in wheat and barley. Aflatoxins are more in the south part of the Europe, where the corn samples showed higher levels of aflatoxins. United States, in the United States in this season, pre-harvest rains actually created increasing challenge for the Fusarium mycotoxins, and a very dry harvest led to the damage in the kernels, which obviously increased the greater foreign materials and as well as the potential storage and shipping issues. If you look at Canada, Fusarium mycotoxins dominated in the wheat and barley, lower risk compared to the previous years, but many samples contaminated contained elevated levels of mycotoxins. If we look at Brazil, aflatoxin, Dawn, fumonisin, and zearalenone are the primary mycotoxins with average concentrations of Fusarium toxins, which put a high risk for this, particularly for the pigs. Now, if you look at some of the numbers for corn produced in Europe, there is around 2.9 average mycotoxins per sample that we tested. And along with those mycotoxins, the mainly ochratoxin A, aflatoxin B, and T2 toxins were of a higher risk for the animal species. And when we talk about the risk, on an average, more than like 80% of the samples were high to moderate risk for the growing and finishing pigs when we look at this specific corn from the Europe in this season. And around 45% of the samples were moderate to high risk for the broilers, and around 30% for the dairy cows were moderate to high risk. On what that means, moderate to high risk, that means there is a potential loss that you might be seeing in your animals, either in terms of the weight gain, or in terms of growth, or in terms of the productivity of the animals. Going to the corn in the US, comparative to the Europe average, there was 7.8 mycotoxins per sample that were detected from the corn samples in the US. The type of mycotoxins, type B trichothiocins, zearalenone, and fumonisin. These were the most high-risk mycotoxins present in the corn produced in the US. But then the number of mycotoxins were high, but the levels were a little different comparative to the European corn. There's around 25 to 30% samples moderate to high risk for the growing and finishing pigs. Around 40% of the samples in the broilers were moderate to high risk, and around 30% of the samples for the dairy cows were moderate to high risk. Again, losing the productivity and efficiencies in the feed. If you look at the corn samples in the Brazil, the 4 key mycotoxins that were detected was aflatoxin, Dawn, fumonisin, and zearalenone. Majority of these samples were tested through rapid test systems, which means we tested around 6 mycotoxins, but the 4 key mycotoxins were detected in more than the limit of quantifications. And you can see that even with these only 6 tested mycotoxins, 4 detected mycotoxins, but still the risk for moderate to high level for the pigs and for the dairy cows was significantly high. For the broilers, it was comparatively less, but very high risk for the grower and finishing pigs. If you look at corn byproducts from North America, Europe, and Asia, we found more than 10 mycotoxins on an average per sample. And type B trichothiocin, zearalenone, and fusaric acid were the most common mycotoxins with the high risk levels for the different species. If you look at the risk level for all the species, around 85 to 90% of the samples were moderate to high risk for the grower finishing pigs, broilers, and dairy cows, posing a significant risk and reducing average daily gains, reducing milk production, and reducing productivity overall for all the species. If you look at the barley in Europe, 6.8 average mycotoxins in the barley. The highest risk mycotoxins were type B trichotoxins, type A trichotoxins, which is mainly DON and T2, and ergot alkaloids were the most high risk mycotoxins present in the barley in Europe. Again, coming to the risk, around 70 to 80% of the samples showed moderate to high risk for all species. So we have to be a bit careful on that side. If you look at the wheat in Europe, 7.6 average mycotoxins per sample, type B trichotoxins, which is DON and DON family mycotoxins, and then type A trichotoxins, which is T2 mycotoxins. These were more common in the wheat present in from the Europe. If you look at the overall risk for all species, again, around 50% of the samples were moderate to high risk for grow-finished pigs and broilers as well, and around 30% of the samples were moderate to high risk for the dairy cows. If you look at wheat and barley for Canada, again, 6 key mycotoxins were tested using rapid read systems. 3 mycotoxins were detected with the moderate to high levels. And if you look at the risk, around 50%, 60% of the samples were moderate to high risk for the grow-finished pigs, around 40% for the broiler, and around 30% for the dairy cows. Now, this data, you can look at the report, detailed report, and understand a little bit more on the individual mycotoxins that were present in these different raw materials. This can give you some ideas around how, what are the mycotoxins present in different raw materials in different regions and different parts of the world. Now, how we can manage these mycotoxins? We know these are there. We know the based on what raw materials we're importing, from where we're importing, we know what the levels are there. Now, how we can manage these mycotoxins? At Alltech, we follow a three-pronged strategy. The first one is identifying the risk. And this report gives you a bit of an idea about identifying the risk. Then we need to quantify the risk. What quantify means is if you get different levels of mycotoxins, how would they impact on your animals? What is the risk? Is it moderate, low, or high risk? And then the third, last stage is mitigating the risk. Whatever risk is present in our finished feed, how we can mitigate that risk so that our animals are not impacted. So to quantify the risk, as I mentioned, we use different methods. Alltech have an extensive program to manage those mycotoxins. So the first one to identify the risk, we use 37 Plus Lab, which is a highly advanced lab testing more than 54 mycotoxins from individual samples present in different parts of the world. Along with that, we have an extensive network of rapid read systems, which is available in different parts of the world. We can test more than 6 mycotoxins quickly. And now to expand that network, we have partnered with YCAM Water's system, which is again a quick test method, but it even expands the reach of testing more raw materials. Along with that, we have developed Alltech's Mycotoxin Management Portal. Now, this portal is a key aspect of how we understand the mycotoxins, how we can see that how the trends are changing over a period of time and how that is impacting on the animal performance that you have. As I mentioned, every season, every region, every country, every raw materials have different mycotoxins in different stages of production and different seasons. So what you get after 2 months of the shipping or 3 months of the shipping and 2 months storage in your storage conditions, what final mycotoxins are there, that's very unique to you. So you have to understand, you have to detect your own mycotoxins, you have to put it into the portal where you can easily understand how that profile is changing over a period of time, how that is impacting on your productivity, on your efficiency. So this mycotoxin portal gives you a very unique advantage where you can actually understand the mycotoxin, not only test the mycotoxin, but understand the mycotoxins and how they're impacting you. Now, to understand the risk that your animals are getting, Alltech is pioneered in developing this REQ system. Now, this system basically gives you a cumulative effect of different mycotoxins at different stages of production of your animals. Normally, with the testing, you get certain ppbs of certain raw materials in different combinations. But what does that mean? Is it high risk, low risk? What potential production loss you might be getting? That's where REQ comes in. That gives you a cumulative effect of how different mycotoxins at different level of combinations and for different species is going to impact on those animals. And then even it gives you a bit of a prediction using Alltech Protect calculator to give you a prediction how much potential loss you might be getting, how much potential average daily gain you might be losing, or how much milk production you might be losing. So this gives you a better understanding of how much risk your animals are getting, so you can better understand how much you want to invest on to mitigate that risk. Now, to mitigate that risk, Alltech has a extensive product family to actually mitigate that risk, depending on what species, what stage of production, or what level of risk you have. So the first product that we have is Mycotoxin A+, which is a premium broad-spectrum mycotoxin binder, which is composed of yeast, cell wall, and algae. This is a premium binder that has a very broad binding capacity and a higher binding capacity for different mycotoxins. And then we have an economy Mycotoxin, which is again a premium broad spectrum binder with only yeast cell wall extract that gives you a very extensive, safe, binding efficiencies for different mycotoxins. And then we have developed a Mycotoxin LR, a solution for the low risk situations. Again, this is a broad spectrum mycotoxin binder composed of yeast cell wall, but a little bit less refined. But then we use this product for a low risk situation when your raw materials are a little bit safer, has a low level of mycotoxins, or your animals are in a situation where there's less sensitive to mycotoxins. So this is how we can use different product lines for different species, depending on the sensitivity of mycotoxins, the level of mycotoxins in your feed, and how these animals are affected by these mycotoxins. So you can choose which product line you want to use depending on these parameters. All of these product lines has an extensive research behind it. We pride ourselves that we have the extensive and a lot of research, peer-reviewed research. We recently published peer-reviewed meta-analysis for monogastrics, for layers, broilers, and growing pigs. That gives us the confidence that the product lines that Alltech has an extensive research, and even within the peer-reviewed meta-analysis, we saw a lot of benefits for the animals and reduced impact of those mycotoxins in the feed on the animals. Now, as Alltech has always, using data, information, and scientific methods to continue to research, continue to develop on, what trends are happening, what data is coming in, what profiles are changing. We have been studying mycotoxin profiles for a very long time. For many years, we are seeing how the trends of mycotoxins are changing, how the level of different mycotoxins are changing, and how the different mycotoxins are coming more and more in our raw materials and how they are impacting. So we have been studying these trends. And one trend that we have been seeing more often is type B trichothecenes. Over a period of many years, this mycotoxin is coming more and more. The level is increasing continuously as well. So what are these type B trichothecenes? These are mainly DON or DON family mycotoxins, which is deoxynivalenol, and fusoron X. These are the key mycotoxins in this family. These are mainly found in the cereal grains, wheat, barley, maize, and other cereal-based foods and feeds. What impact they have? Their main actions are on the inhibition of the protein synthesis, induction of oxidative stress, and cytotoxicity, that means cell damage and tissue damage. If we look at how all of these actions will impact on the animals, which means gastrointestinal issues, vomiting, diarrhea, reduced feed intake, immune suppressions, increased susceptibility to the infections, growth impairments, stunted growth, reduced weight gain. So this is a very potent mycotoxin that actually impacts a lot of different functions of the body and have a lot of negative impacts on the overall productivity of the animals. If we look at rising, global threat of DON, European wheat, up to 2,000 ppb of DON was present in the European wheat. In Canadian wheat and barley, up to 1,000 ppb of DON was present. In US corn, up to 3,700 ppb of DON was present. There has been weather impacts, pre-harvest rainfall in the Europe and US and Canada that actually drive higher levels of DON. Animal losses, obviously, with that high level of mycotoxin DON present in the feed, pig can reduce the average daily gain by 48 grams. Broiler feed efficiency can reduce by 2.8%. Milk output can reduce by up to 0.1 to 9 liters per day. Overall, this mycotoxin is posing a high risk, which demands a stricter control and monitoring and mitigation strategies for this mycotoxin. When we look at globally, this 50% of the risk for our animals is coming from type B group of toxins, which means DON and other DON family mycotoxins. So it's posing a higher risk, and it's coming again and again for a very long period of time now. So we realized, based on the research, based on the information, we have been continuously developing more solutions to make sure that we can protect the animals. So depending on these mycotoxin evolution, we are also evolving our mycotoxin mitigating program. That means very soon there will be new product lines coming in for the Mycosorb and Mycosorb A plus family, and that has a higher binding efficiency, much higher binding efficiency for DON and DON-related mycotoxins and some other emerging mycotoxins as well. Although currently the best mycotoxin binding, even for DON and other mycotoxins, you can get from Mycosorb A plus and Mycosorb, but even to further enhance those binding efficiency, even broadening the binding profile of different mycotoxins, as now the emerging mycotoxins as well coming up. So we are evolving our mycotoxin mitigating program, which means new mycotoxin binding products, Mycosorb and Mycosorb A plus will be coming in very soon, within next few months or so. You will be seeing these product lines coming in, and that can give you much better protection from these mycotoxins. So this is all about the risk import analysis that we did a report for you, and you can sign up for the complete report, and you can understand a little bit details, look at the numbers, look at the mycotoxin that we have detected. Now, if you have any questions, we'll be more than happy to answer any questions. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Gaz, for that very rich, very insightful presentation. And we have learned so much. I can speak for attendees that we have learned so much. But I believe there's still more to unpack in today's topic. And let's get down to our Q&A. I'd like to invite our speakers to join me in answering numerous questions that our attendees have installed for us. So let's just start with our Q&A. First question, I will leave it to Gus or Gustavo for this one. The question is this: what is driving the major increases in Vietnamese grain imports and feed production compared to other countries?
Okay, so I will take that, guys. So when we look for Vietnam, like we can see an increase in the import and the feed production in the last years. We can assume there are several interconnected factors. When we look to Vietnam is really a rapid growth country in animal production, animal protein consumption. Also, when we look how the livestock and the aquaculture is behaving, is also having a huge growth, a huge expansion. We do not have really domestic grain production, and of course that the last government policies and trade agreements make some of the challenge what we are seeing in a global supply chain.
All right, Gustavo, thank you for that. Well, let's proceed to the next question. This question is more for Dr. Radka. Question is this: there seems to be a different weather impacts across each region, and how does this influence crop quality and contamination risk for Asian imports?
Thank you. That's a good question. Indeed, we have to realize that the weather is the major driver for the mycotoxin contamination. You can do the best agriculture practices, but if the weather is just not right, or it's just right for the mold growth and the mycotoxin production, you cannot do much about that. We have to realize that 95% of all mycotoxins are produced in the fields. Okay, the rest are during the transportation and during the storage and so on. But especially, I'm more responsible for Europe, and in Europe, if the storage conditions are super perfect, wonderful, but the weather is very bad. In terms of very bad weather, I mean the pre-harvest weather and also the weather during the harvest. So two important weathers. The first one is the pre-harvest weather. So in Europe, the harvest of, for example, small grain is happening in July, August. The large grain like corn or maize is going to be harvested end of September, October. The weather before the harvest is extremely important. If it's very rainy, it's very high precipitation. There are probably also floods. The plants are under a huge water, we call it water stress, and they're extremely vulnerable towards the molds. And the molds also like Fusarium, which is producing also DON and type A, type B trachea disease. These molds, they love very humid, moist weather, which is very moisty. On the other side, I can use Europe again as an example. If this pre-harvest weather is very hot and dry, that's what happened in southeastern Europe in 2024 and also in the previous years as well. Now, then the plants are again under a huge water stress. They are not stressed because of too much water, but they are stressed because of too less water. So it's hot and dry will favor another mold, which is called Aspergillus. Aspergillus flowers will produce another group of mycotoxins like aflatoxins. So the weather is very important driver. What is going to happen, which mycotoxin we will see in the grains in the end of the day. And the last is also very important, what is going to be the weather during the harvest. If it's raining, the tractors and the machines cannot get on the field, they cannot harvest in time, and every week of delayed harvest will result in high mycotoxin concentrations, contaminations of the grain. So for Asia, Asia is a bad luck because Asia imports these raw materials from different regions with their own weather problems during the year. In Asia, you make a cocktail of raw materials and cocktail of different mycotoxins. And that's the problem. If you import and you mix something from South America with something from Europe, you get those mycotoxins which are produced in South America as more like monogastrics in Zero. But you can easily get in combination with something from Europe, which is high in fusarium mycotoxins like DON, fusaric acid. And if you're unlucky, you imported it from Southeastern Europe, which will be high in aflatoxins. So that's the problem. Asia is a problem because you import and you make a cocktail of mycotoxins. It makes everything worse.
Thank you, Dr. Radka. Great answer. One attendee, Luzan, thank you for that question, asking for Dr. Gaz, can you explain why corn byproducts are much higher risk compared to the unprocessed grains?
Okay. So whenever we process any raw material, there has always a lot of stress on that raw material. You're processing it through so many chemicals, so many processes are involved. And then most of that processing is involved to get some human food grade products out of that. So you want to, clean that product as much as you can. And during all of this process, a lot of heat is involved, a lot of chemicals are involved, a lot of stress factors are involved, a lot of pressure, temperature, so many factors are involved. That puts pressures if there's a mold contamination in there, and then the mycotoxins concentrate in those byproducts that are coming out. So when these mycotoxins concentrate on those byproducts, obviously the level of mycotoxin will be higher in those byproducts.
Yeah, thank you, guys. This time, this question is for Gustavo. The question is, we focus largely on monogastric feed production in Asia. And what are the key signs of mycotoxin exposure to look out for when it comes to pigs and poultry?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for your question. True that here in Asia we focus more on the monogastric, on the swines and the pigs. When we look to the mycotoxin contamination, the swine and the poultry, they will have are a little bit more vulnerable to that mycotoxins comparing to the ruminants. So when we wanted to look more for the implications, what we are going to see or what we are going to absorb is the reduction on the growth and reduction on the performance. That mycotoxins also bring toxicity to that animal. So we are starting to have some health problems. Specific in swine, if we have high levels of Zeralion, we are going to have some reproductive issues. Mycotoxins in general, they also will have immune system suppression. So when we are talking about all the production, all the meat and the eggs production, if we are feeding our animals with mycotoxins, we are going to decrease the final product or the quality of that final product. And one of the most important things is also that the producers are having that economic losses, so they are not getting the return of investment that they should get.
Yeah, thank you, Gustavo. This question, maybe Dr. Radka or Gus can answer. Question is this. One attendee is asking, how often should I be testing incoming grains into the feed mill? And maybe as a follow-up to that, are rapid test devices sufficient to detect mycotoxin risk, or should I be sending samples for lab analysis as well?
Yes, they want to take it or should I?
Yeah, I can take it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a good question. I mean, like, this is very subjective to the producer itself, how often you are getting the raw materials. Anything that's coming in new, that's for sure you need to test. Anything that's new coming in, because you don't know about that raw materials. And then even when you are storing it for a longer period of time, 2 months, 3 months time period, then you need to continuously test that. And then regarding the rapid test kits, these quick tests they have been quite efficient in testing at least the 6 key mycotoxins. Our first screening points, they gives very good results in that sense. But normally what we do is that we use rapid test kits as a screening methods, as an initial testing methods to find out what levels of mycotoxins are coming in or screen the raw materials. But then for the finished feeds, we can use the lab network where you can detect more than 54 mycotoxins all in one sample. So that gives you that will be more like a confirmation what you tested in 4 or 5 key raw materials with the rapid test kit, and then what you got in the finished feed from the lab. Then you can get a better understanding, like, is the testing going on accurately, or there's something that either coming in through your bins maybe, or maybe any raw material that gives you wrong results. So then you can actually check what's happening with that. So that gives you an understanding of that.
Yeah, thank you, guys. This next question is for Dr. Radka. One attendee is curious to know if he said, if I use Alltech for mycotoxin testing, will I be able to use REQ to assess my risk?
Another good question, of course. That's why we do that. The REQ system is available for our customers and all who are using Alltech 37 plus analysis, or it's even available for the Rapid or Raptor's Rapid. So every time you analyze your sample at Alltech 37 plus lab, you get 2 reports. One is from the lab, which is independent. It gives you the list of mycotoxins. You can use this as the evidence in front of the court, for example. And the second one will be the risk assessment report, which contains the results for different mycotoxin groups. Then it contains the traffic light, so it will tell you which mycotoxin group is the most risky in your feed or raw material, and will give you the REQ value if the results come back positive for 3 and more mycotoxins. And in the end, there will be also comments if it comes back from 37 plus lab. There will be also comments from one of our colleagues from the US, who will also give some comments about the quality of that raw material or finished feed. So it's automated, plus there is a human, there's a real person behind every risk assessment report looking at it and assessing. This is the risk. This is what you can expect in your animals, and so on. So yes, my short answer, yes, you will get the REQ.
All right, thank you. So much question actually this for Dr. Radka as well. I think, or maybe Gus. One attendee is asking, why are you focused on addressing the Dawn challenge?
Okay, so why we are focusing on the Dawn challenge? As you mentioned that even if this import risk analysis report, if you see the majority of the samples were highly contaminated, the higher risk was coming from Trichothecenes B, which is Dawn, and the Dawn-related mycotoxins. And secondly, if you look at globally, this was very specific for specific regions, specific raw materials. But when we look at the global data, more than 50% of the risk that is coming in is from the type B trichothecenes. And this is not just in one report. We have been looking at the data, like with 37 plus, we have been testing more than, I think, if I'm not wrong, like 60, 70,000 samples we have tested over the last 5-6 years time period. And we have been looking at data very carefully and seeing how these mycotoxins are evolving, which mycotoxins are coming more and more and more. Like if we test 60,000 samples and we see like 70% of the samples or 80% of the samples had one raw material that is coming again and again in every sample. And even the level is increasing significantly over a period of time. And then there's a significant research available that shows the super high negative impact of that certain mycotoxin on our animals as well. So if it is coming again and again, if the level is increasing significantly over a period of time, if we know the impact on the animals is significantly higher, then obviously we need to do something about that mycotoxin. And that's why we're developing new product lines to make sure that we are overcoming that challenge as well.
All right, thank you, Gus. And given what Gus said, I would like this next question for Gustavo. Given the cost pressures in the industry, how would you justify the use of premium binders in lower risk regions or in periods with below average contamination? Maybe you can also share, apart from nutritional solutions, what else can feed and livestock producers do to mitigate the mycotoxin risk?
Yeah. So basically, like looking to our Mycosorb product family, we have a broad spectrum toxin binder, but we have what Gaz was mentioning, the Mycosorb LR, that is really for the low risk diets. So when we are completely confident and we know very well the quality of our feeds, we can shift which toxin binder or which program are we going to use to be more economic for the producer.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gustavo. And yeah, next question is for Dr. Radka. With Dawn being such a potent inhibitor of protein synthesis, is there a recommended minimum inclusion rate of Mycosorb A+ in feed formulations during high-risk periods?
That's an interesting question, because you talk about the minimum and then you talk about the high risk. That's fighting each other. For our mycotoxin binders, Mycosorbs, A+, LR, Mycosorb, and also the next generation, the dosage recommendation is very much dependent on the risk. It goes from 0.5 kg per ton up to 2 kg per ton. If my risk is high, I have to stick to the higher inclusion rate, which is 1.5 to 2 kg per ton. So to answer your question, the minimum for the high risk, in my opinion, would be a 0.5 or 0.75 kg per ton. The maximum, in my opinion, is not really unlimited. So if you want to use 5 kilos, you use high kilos. That's the advantage of using Alltech mycotoxin binders, is they are extremely safe. They have no interactions with vitamins, minerals, no medication whatsoever is important in the feed. So yeah, to be quick and short, for high risk, the minimum inclusion rate, in my opinion, would be this 1.5 kg per ton for the Mycosorb. And if you want to use the LR, it's not the right product to be used for the high risk. In case you are using Mycosorb LR, which is less refined, contains less refined yeast and is for the low risk, you have to switch the product to Mycosorb or Mycosorb A+ if the risk is going to increase. So LR is only going to be used from the inclusion rate is going to be 0.5 to 1 kg per ton. If your risk goes to moderate or high, you have to change the product. You switch from LR to Mycotoxin or Mycotoxin A+.
All right, thank you, Dr. Radka. This next question is for maybe Gaz or Gustavo can answer. Question is, can we use other nutritional solutions in addition to the binders to support immunity and gut health during a mycotoxin challenge?
Yeah, so definitely, like, I mean, mycotoxins are something that is impacting on, that can impact on almost all systems of the body, right? It could be production, reproduction, any system of the body they can impact. Now, depending on what level of mycotoxins are there, what combination of mycotoxins are there, they can impact all the systems. Immunity is like most of the mycotoxins are challenging the immunity. So definitely, there are some the product lines that you can use along with the mycotoxin binder. First thing we want to do is to bind those mycotoxins, to use a good mycotoxin binder to make sure that we get rid of those mycotoxins. And the second thing is to even compensate for that, to help the animal get back to the immunity faster, quicker. Some prebiotics, some yeast cell wall components can be utilized, like one of the product lines of Alltech, Actigen, can be utilized to make sure the immunity is getting back. Organic trace minerals can be helpful in to making sure that the immunity is getting better. The animals are performing well, fighting back to the overall health challenges that the animal might be getting. So yes, definitely we can use some combination of different products, but the first priority, first goal is to bind those mycotoxins with a good mycotoxin binder, get rid of that. And the second thing that I want to highlight from the previous two questions, one about the cost side and one about the use of mycotoxin binders at different dose rates. We follow a risk-based approach. That's why we use rapid test kit. We use 37+ analysis. We use REQ systems to make sure that we identify the source of a problem using rapid test REQ rapid test kit to find out which raw material is creating that challenge. If we found you have a high risk, we give you high dose rate of a product, but then we try to find out from where that high risk is coming in. We don't want you to keep using a high level 2 kilograms of Mycotoxin A+ for whole life. We don't want that. We want you to be profitable. If you are profitable, Alltech will be in business, right? So we will try to find out, work with you, why this high risk is coming in, from where it's coming in, detect it, find it, and then give you the options, solutions. Maybe either you can use that certain raw material which is posing a high risk, divert this raw material to another species or another stage of production that is maybe less sensitive to that specific mycotoxin, or maybe that animal can be for example, if it's a broiler and it's going in like in next 5 days, it's going to the slaughterhouse, maybe you can divert that raw material to that species and use a good raw material for the other sensitive species. So we work with you from the day one until the end. So we make sure that we find a problem, we reduce that problem, we remove that problem, and then come back to the normal dose rate. So to make sure the cost is covered, but then utilizing REQ systems to give you the exact dose rate that's required based on your situation.
All right, thank you, guys. This next question is for Dr. Radka and probably will be our last question before we end the webinar. The question is like this. How much percentage of mycotoxin possibly can bind by using toxin binder? If eumonicins 14,200 ppb, so can we bind all by using toxin binder?
This is a tricky question and not easy to answer. Let's say it that way. There isn't a binder in the world which can bind 100% of mycotoxin, whatever mycotoxin you talk about. So my question goes back, if you have 14,200 ppb, we cannot bind all. We can reduce the mycotoxin risk. The mycotoxin risk is never coming from one mycotoxin. That rarely happens. I have seen some samples with less mycotoxins, but even if you analyze for 54 different mycotoxins, it doesn't necessarily mean we analyze all mycotoxins. There are over 1,000 mycotoxins and fungal metabolites in the nature. So if you analyze for 54 mycotoxins, we are still testing for very small proportion of the mycotoxins. So first, if you analyze this comes back with only one mycotoxin being there, it's probably not true. So for us, it's extremely important that we can assess how much we can reduce the entire mycotoxin risk, which is a cocktail. It's a mixture of mycotoxins. And in that case, my general answer is it very much depends on the inclusion rate of your mycotoxin binder. It very much depends on the animal species, because some are more sensitive, some are less sensitive, and the final impact of the binder will very much depend on what kind of animal species it is. And in the end, of course, it depends what cocktail of mycotoxins you have in your feed. Some mycotoxins are absorbed easily, some are not that well. That's the entire problem of this mycotoxin binder strategy. So from that cocktail of mycotoxins we can absorb, some mycotoxins 90, 95, 80, 85%. Some mycotoxins maybe 50, 60%. So the entire risk reduction, my general answer is, will be with this mycosoap generation we are using now will be around 60, 70%, depending on the species. With the next generation of mycosoap, it's going to be up to 80, 85%. So very important, what is the initial REQ? What is your risk? And then we can take down around 60, 70% from this risk with the current mycosoap generation. Well, it's I cannot give you exact answer because it depends on too many factors.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Radka. And given the amount of questions, we could say that this has been a very high interest from our attendees for this topic. However, it looks like that is all the time that we have for today's webinar. And attendees, fret not. For questions that we have not answered, we will be forwarding them to our speakers, and their responses will be emailed to you accordingly. And once again, we would like to thank our speakers, Dr. Radka Borutova, Dr. Ghazanfar Naseer, and Gustavo Ribeiro, for sharing your knowledge in today's topic. And of course, to Alltech for bringing us this wonderful webinar. And last but not the least, to all our attendees, we appreciate you being here and we welcome any feedback you have in today's webinar. Please don't forget to visit EPDlink's Agri Digital Hub for more industry relevant presentations. Once again, thank you for joining us today, and we would love to see you in our next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
See you.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.